What happens when a paranormal researcher finds out that the answers that he's seeking is in the worst place possible? And then we take a look at the story of a man who's just trying to make his way through life, just like all of us. But he discovers that there's more than one of him living in his house. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a ton of stuff to cover today, so let's get it started. First off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio. Command is one of our Thanksgiving live stream contributors. Get on your feet and give it up for Oracle Relationship. Woohoo, yeah, wee, ha ha ha, yeah, she's bringing in leftovers. Yummy, yummy, yummy. If you're eating Thanksgiving leftovers this late in the game, you must have the stomach of Iron Man. And he had a normal human stomach, just the outside of him was iron. Oracle Relationship, you're going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon or through PayPal donations, YouTube membership, whatever, that's totally fine. It truly is. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. You can also vote in our monthly Top 10 Paranormal Podcast Survey. There's a link in the show notes. Vote up to 3 times a month. That also really helps out the show. That puts us in Paranormality Magazine's Top 10 Podcasts of the Month. I really appreciate it when you guys do that too. Oracle, we really do have a ton of stuff to cover, so let's go ahead and get this party started. First off, I'm going to toss you the hair hang glider. Everyone grab onto her ankles as she jumps off the highest point of Dead Rabbit Command and glides us all the way out to the edge of the limitless universe. It's going to be a long glide. Hope you're ready. I wanted to talk about this real quick, and I'm emphasizing that because I've tried recording this a couple times now to a total of 30 minutes of me talking about this. I want to make this real quick. I get a lot of questions about the law of attraction because I believe in the law of attraction. I practice the law of attraction. Basically, it's the idea of visualizing subconsciously what you want and believing you already have it, even if it is counter to your current position. I get emails about this and YouTube comments about this, about law of attraction. Wanted to share a tip or two. This segment definitely won't be 30 minutes. You go, how do you do that? How do you see the real world but then believe something else about it? This is something that I've been doing recently, and this is not a plea for money. I'm going to use not a lot of money as an example. Please do not send me money, right? The last time I talked about this, I was very grateful. I actually didn't have money, and you guys bought me groceries. That was awesome. I totally love that, but that's not what this is. Let's say I've started doing this recently, because if I look at my account and I have $22 in it, and I don't send me any money, please. Save it for Christmas presents for other people or for yourself. Let's say I have $22 in my account. Jason, how do you visualize yourself having more money? Because this is all that you have. First off, and I want to be very clear about this, be careful the language you use regarding yourself. We did almost a whole episode on this a long time ago. Don't use terms like broke, I'm broke. Because language is important. And when you say that is not true. You're not broken. I know it's a figure of speech, but I think that does create a bond between you and money that's completely unhealthy. But I'll put that episode in the show notes for more details on that. But let's say I have $22 in my account. What I have to believe subconsciously, you can't force it. You have to subconsciously believe in this. And that's the first part of the trick, is to subconsciously believe it. And then the second trick appears. I say, listen, I only have $22 and I get paid in 2 weeks. What I would tell myself in this situation is I have a ton of money. I have so much money. But it's in a savings account, a money market account. I got some CDs. I got some stock, a little bit of Bitcoin. I got all this money. And sure, I could call up my money manager, have them transfer some over to the checking account. But then there's the fees and the time, by all this stuff, make the phone. By the time all that stuff is done, it'll be payday anyways. I actually have thousands upon thousands of dollars. But it's more trouble than it's worth. I'll just make do with this $22 until I get my pay. Do you see how you change reality? That's a little tip. That's how it would work. Because obviously you can't have $22 and go, kazoo! And then it's like $2,200 that you're holding in your hand. It wouldn't work like that. There's a physical, you have $22, you're holding it. That is a physical reality. You have to believe subconsciously that you do have a huge amount of money out there. That's part of the trick to it. Subconsciously believe, and other people will believe it. One of the things, this is something I don't want to be, this might come off as like bragging, I don't think so, but I always subconsciously believed myself to be a pretty cool guy. Even when I was a kid, I saw myself as a cool kid, and then a cool teenager, and then a cool young adult, and a cool adult. And I don't mean like I'm up hip with the times, I'm all about the drip and the riz. I just mean I visualize myself as a pretty cool guy to hang out with. I don't know if that's true, but because that was how I felt about myself, other people also began to think I was cool. And you go, Jason, well, maybe you are just a cool guy. Everyone's giving me pats on the back, putting money in my pockets. Keep your money. I don't think so. Like, I don't think on a strict factual level I was ever quote unquote cool, but I always believed I was cool. I always believed I was cool to hang out with. Because let's be honest, if you ever catch me in a conversation, we're talking about three things: ghosts, anything paranormal, movies, and maybe comic books, depending on how nerdy you are. I'm not that well-rounded. But I believe that I'm fun to hang out with and I'm cool. And people who normally would not hang out with me find themselves hanging out with me. I do believe, and I was doing all that subconsciously. I didn't know what the law of attraction was. I honestly believe that I created a version of myself in my own head, and I believed it so firmly, despite evidence to the contrary. Despite people, because it doesn't work on everyone. Some people are like, you're not cool. Why is everyone hanging out with this guy? He's the least cool person here. You believe it so much, but you got to believe it subconsciously. And this is another tip I get emails about this, and I've seen this posted online other places. I'm using the law of attraction, but nothing's happening. I'm using the law of attraction to get out of this situation, but nothing is changing. This is a super weird thing about the law of attraction, because you're basically putting out into the universe the reality that you live in. It's not the reality you want, it's the reality you currently have. But the reality you currently have is what you're trying to get out of. So you have to replace the reality you're in with a more suitable, favorable reality to you. The thing that a lot of people get hung up on, and I do it too, is that you overthink it. This is a little tip, and then we'll move on to the story. Sorry if this is boring to you, but I find it fascinating. Not only do I find it fascinating, like I said, I recorded this for 30 plus minutes earlier. I have a feeling that someone needs to hear this right now. Because normally, if I can't get it right, I would just move on to the other topic. But something's telling me someone needs to hear this. They might be using the law of attraction. They might be really stuck, and they might be in need. First off, you have to believe it subconsciously, and you can use tricks like that. Like, this is the money I have, but I have more money in bank accounts. It's not just worth getting out. Secondly, when you go to a restaurant and you order a burger with fries, waitress writes it down and she walks back to the kitchen. You don't then spend the next 20 minutes going, where's my burger and fries? Oh my God, am I going to get it? Have I got it yet? I look down. Nope, nothing on the table. Oh, where is it? Where's my burger and fry? Oh my God, it needs to come. Where's it at? In fact, you usually just completely forget that you're going to be eating soon. I mean, unless you're really, really hungry, You'll start talking to the person you're having dinner with, or if you're by yourself, you pull out your phone, break out a newspaper, what have you, and you simply go about your business until the hamburger and fries comes and sits down, and then you enjoy it. When you place an order with a waitress, you have no question in your mind that that food will be coming soon. So much so that you don't even think about it. You actually go about your business because you know it's coming. Subconsciously, you know that when you place an order, it will come. You have to view the universe like that. You can't overthink it. That's something that I run into. And it actually causes the law of attraction to kind of stop and stutter, and you're overthinking it. You place your order with the universe, you subconsciously talk to the universe and let them know what you have now. You have to be thankful for this. It's super weird because what you have now may not be what you want, but you have to visualize where you want to be is what you have now, and you have to be thankful for already having it. I'm very, very thankful to the universe because I have thousands upon thousands in all of these bank accounts. Super thankful. I'm really, really appreciative of that. And then you go about your day. You don't then go online and check your online banking. You don't check it the next day. You just know it's going to be there. You also have to do work, right? You also do have to, if I wanted this show to be successful and I used the law of attraction and I used it perfectly well and did everything subconsciously, a good time to do all this visualization is right before you fall asleep. When you're laying in bed before you fall asleep, I'll put some of those exercises in the show notes. There's exercises that you can do before you go to sleep because that's when your brain's really in that subconscious mode. But you do have to work. If I wanted to use the law of attraction to make this show grow, which is why I use the law of attraction for this show, to expand the audience, to expand the reach, because I think the show's cool. And I mean, there I am, right? There I am using, I'm visualizing that the show's cool. And I think more people would have fun listening to it. I think it would be, if I was a listener and I discovered this show tomorrow, I'd think it was awesome. It's like, wow, this dude's absolutely nuts, but this is fun. This is what I need on my walk to work. If I visualized the show and used the law of attraction and made the show grow, but then I stopped putting out episodes, I stopped putting in any work whatsoever, is it going to work? If I visualize the show being this huge success and growing and growing and growing, but I just don't do anything physically, I don't create new episodes. So there is that. You do need to put in the physical effort as well. But when you're working on it, you have to already believe it's a huge success. I hope that was cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I do feel, like I said, I've been sitting here now for 47 minutes recording different variations of kind of that same thing. Normally, I would have given up and moved on to another topic, but I feel like somebody out there needed to hear this segment. And honestly, maybe that person was me included. Maybe I'm included in that group of people who needed to hear this. Oracle relationship. Let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the Jason Jalopy. We're leaving behind the limitless universe. Drive us all the way out to Indiana. We're driving out to Indiana. Specifically, we're headed out to Anderson, Indiana. Now, while this is a short story, it has huge implications for the future of Dead Rabbit Radio. Plus, you're going to learn something about me. You just learned I'm cool, right? Just like all you cool kids listening to Kim Dracula. We're in Anderson, Indiana. We have a report of a fat ghost. What's really interesting is I've done the topic, Why Are There No Fat Ghosts? I've given 2 presentations on it. And since Port Gamble, I've been uncovering more and more fat ghosts. There's actually 2. Oh, I didn't tell that other story about the haunted house at Port Gamble. We'll have to save that, but I'll have to put that in my notes. But there are 2 fat ghosts in Port Gamble, apparently. I've uncovered 3 through my research. This will make half a dozen. We're standing in the city limits of Anderson, Indiana, and I go, you know, what's interesting is one of the reasons why I want the show to grow, it's not just for vanity, it's not even for money. I was talking to Riley the other day on the Discord server during our weekly Patreon live episode, and I mentioned that one of the things I really want to do with this show is to travel. with it. Do these location investigations. That would be dope. That would be so cool. We'd still have the daily podcast. I don't want to give that up at all. But imagine if I could also go to these locations. But you're like, that is great, Jason. That's a really cool idea. I'm wearing a leather jacket, my sunglasses on. Why won't you investigate this one in Anderson, Indiana? And I go, because while there are fat ghosts at Port Gamble I could look into, while there is one in Reno, and there's one in Iowa, those are the other two that I found recently. I said there was 5. Well, anyways, there's some other one floating around, some fatso floating around. The one in Anderson, Indiana may be the boss level ghost. In Anderson, Indiana, there's a fat ghost at a haunted Arby's. And you're like, what? This is your first episode? You're like, Jason, law of attraction me to a show. Whee! And then they're like, wait, what? Fat ghost? Arby's? What is this madness? I'm sold. This show's so cool. I hate Arby's. Arby's is the most disgusting fast food restaurant, bar none. I could rank them right now. The bottom is Arby's. Right above that is Boston Market. That place is... While it's not gross, I'm super confused when I go in there. Because if you heard Boston... I remember I went to Boston Market being like, oh, dude, it's going to be like fried chicken. No, it's turkey. Right? I went there one time. I went to Boston Market once. I wanted some fried chicken. Like, Jason, that's not their fault. It's not their fault. You don't know what restaurants serve. You can't watch advertisements. I walked in, and they had turkey. They're like, maybe it's Mandela Effect. People are like, what? No, they do serve chicken there. Whatever. The point is that I went to a Boston Market a single time, and I looked at their menu, and I was like, I don't even know what to order. Like, turkey? What's all this turkey stuff? Turkey, gravy, drinks, and all that. I'm like, gross. I've never eaten there. Then there's a huge power gap, because there's a lot of great fast food out there. Del Taco, Taco Bell, McDonald's, Wendy's. I'd put Jack in the Box above Wendy's. Burger King. Loco, Poco, Tacos, whatever that other one is. I'm glad I used the power of the universe to draw new listeners, and they're like, this is nonsense. This isn't cool. You're not cool. You're not even getting to the ghost story. You're just talking about restaurants now. Anyways, Arby's is disgusting. Their commercials are gross. Their meat looks disgusting. Their special sauce is so nasty. It's gross. I've eaten there multiple times at Arby's. I've been there multiple times. It's always disgusting. You're like, Jason, why'd you keep going? Well, sometimes I was stoned, okay? Back in college, if I was stoned enough, there was an Arby's that was open pretty late. My eyes are completely red. I was like, oh, I'm so hungry. No food in the house. Someone goes, well, there's an Arby's around the corner. I'm like, no. And I go, well, maybe it'll taste better now that my brain is fried. It didn't. It doesn't taste good sober or high. But anyways, Arby's is the worst. I hate it. I'll never go back into another Arby's unless I'm forced at gunpoint. But this is the problem. I could go and talk to this restaurant. I could do an investigation, an on-the-ground investigation. I'm standing outside the Arby's. I'm like, are there ghosts in there? People are like, sir, we're going to call the police if you don't leave our parking lot. Well, that's a good transition, because here's the thing. Paranormal researcher, right? I haven't been in the trenches. I haven't done an on-the-ground ghost investigation in quite a while. The other night, I found out that there's a haunted Arby's, which is just like a Venn diagram of the thing I love and the thing I despise. And I go, there's 2 Arby's in Anderson, Indiana. I was recently doing the story about the haunted middle school there as well. I kind of made a reference to this. I'm sitting there, it was like 1 a.m. It was like 10 o'clock at night here in Hood River. I'm sitting there and I go, there's 2 Arby's in Anderson, Indiana. Which one's haunted? So I found one of them was still open. It was like 1 a.m. or whatever. It was super late. They were still open. It was a Friday night. And I called them up. And the manager answered the phone. And I go, hey, first off, let me say too, I blocked my number. I did that *67 or whatever, so no one can know it was me. I called him up and I go, hi, I don't even know if I gave my full name. I definitely didn't talk about the podcast. I go, I'm not even getting the word out. I go, hey, I'm a paranormal researcher. I think I said, hi, my name's Jason. I'm a paranormal researcher. And, okay, here's the thing. I want to tell you something about me. I am not good over the phone or online. I shine in real life. Like, you put me in a room with real people who have never met me before. Maybe this is something I believe in. People are like, we don't know. I am a face-to-face guy. I've never been able to successfully online date. But you put me in a bar, you put me in a pub, you put me at a party, far easier for me. When I'm talking to a girl online, it comes up. That's why I don't spend a lot of time in Discord. That's why I do not spend a lot of time in the Patreon Discord. I'm trying to spend more time, but I'm actually very shy online. That's just the way I've always been. I'm not super shy over the phone, but more shy than I would be in real life. Had I walked into that Anderson Arby's, it would not have been so abrupt. It definitely wouldn't have been a phone call at 1 a.m. for them. But when I'm calling people up, it's weird. It's super weird. I'm far more comfortable in face-to-face conversations. And then I would say phone, and then email. If you've seen me in Zoom, it's ridiculous. I keep doing like thumbs up and nodding my head super like over-exaggerated. So people know that I'm listening. I'm like, I'm just bobbing my head to a song. I was like, yeah, rock on. Imagine you are working at an Arby's. So first off, the law of attraction did not work out for you. Imagine you're working at an Arby's. You get a phone call at 1 a.m. You've probably been dealing with meth heads and stoners the whole night. People whose taste buds have been burned off of their tongue. You're working the late shift. You get a phone call and you hear someone go, hi, my name's Jason. I'm a paranormal researcher. Is your Arby's haunted? That was the first thing. No lead up. Nothing like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, this is going to sound weird, but... No. And she goes, what? And I go, well, I didn't answer that question. I'm not good on the phone. I'm not. She goes, what? And I go, there's two... I didn't answer her question. I just continued with my thought process. I said, there's 2 Arby's in Anderson. And according to the internet, one of them is haunted. Is that yours? And she's like, what? No context for this call at all. She's like, what? And then she goes, no. So that should be the end of the conversation, right? That should be I go, oh, okay. Sorry to bother you, ma'am. Have a great night. Your restaurant's disgusting. That should be the end of the conversation. What I did instead was... This episode's completely gone off the rails. It's kind of like this weird fan service episode, but I go I don't know why I said it like this, but I understood the way I said it came off very menacingly. Because it wasn't like, hey, I'm Jason. I have a paranormal podcast called Dead Rabbit Radio. You ever hear of it? Probably soon. The universe is going to stick it in your brain. What? It was very, like, wooden. I called her up. It's very wooden. It's like 1 a.m. I said, are there 2? There's 2 Arby's in town. Because one of them had closed at 10. Go, there's 2 Arby's in one town and one of them is haunted. Is that you? And she goes, what? No. And then I go, okay. I mean, it's so funny because then immediately after this, that's when I begin trying to find the layout of a local middle school in that same town. I go, oh man, I'm going to have the feds all over me. She's totally going to report this. This is so weird. Hi, my name is Jason Carpenter. I'm a paranormal researcher. Is your Arby's haunted? What? There's 2 Arby's in Anderson, Indiana. On the internet, according to the internet, one of them is haunted. Is that yours? What? No. And then I go, okay. I can't even say it without laughing. I said, okay. Then I'll... It's so weird. I don't know why I said it like this. I go, okay. So I'll call the other one tomorrow. Click. It's like, what? I realized as I was putting the phone down, I was like, why did you say it like that? It sounded like a threat. They're totally calling Arby's internal security forces right now. They're like, trace that number. He used star 67. We can't. Okay. I said it exactly with that tone. Okay. I'll call the other one tomorrow. And then I never did. I never did. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed by the whole thing. I go, okay, here's the thing. She probably thought, what a weird call. It's 1 a.m. It's a Friday. Or she thought, what a weirdo. I better email that other Arby's and make sure they're ready for this phone call. I don't know. But anyways, I was too embarrassed to call up the other Arby's. So maybe, I don't know which Arby's is on. Basically, the story is about me trying to be a paranormal researcher through the phone. And it didn't work out. I actually think I ended up threatening Arby's. Which, here's the thing. This is the problem. Because I hate Arby's so much, there probably was a little menace in my voice, to be honest. I probably was just disgusted that I even had to call another Arby's. Anyways, so again, like, if the show was bigger, wouldn't you want to see that on camera? Wouldn't you want to have like a film crew in here? And I'm like, now the paranormal investigation begins. I pick up the phone, I'm all sweating, I'm all nervous. I'm like, I'm all dialing the numbers. Like, I don't want to do it. Star 67, I don't want him to know who I am. I mean, I could go into these Arby's, I could be wearing a suit and being like, I show up at 1 a.m. anyways, it's not like a time difference. I'm just like, I'm just pussyfooting around the whole day, and it's like, oh no, we got a show to shoot, I better head up to that haunted Arby's. So if you're in Anderson, Indiana, find out for me. Be vigilant, put your life on the line, go on undercover, maybe even... like, pretend to eat Arby's, right? You're like, yummy, yummy, you'll put it in your pocket. Yummy, that was delicious. Now that I've eaten your disgusting slop, could you tell me if there's any ghost here? I guess I should tell you about the ghost, too. I just told you he was fat. This is the perfect ghost. We've talked about this kind of ghost before. There's reports of him being this large man sitting in the lobby of an Arby's. And again... he's trapped in an Arby's, right? It'd be the worst place to be. He's like, oh, why couldn't I've at least been in a Boston market? He's sitting in an Arby's. He's trapped. They see him sitting in the lobby. And then they also have seen him sitting at a table. Like Jason, this is the dumbest. That's it? I thought this was building up. I thought he was like possessing me. I thought he was like, fine. What a waste. What a waste of time. You wouldn't have told this story at all if it didn't involve an Arby's. Be honest. Well, okay. True. But, let me finish. He sits in the lobby. He's like just a ghost. You just walk in there. It's just a fat guy. You just think he's there waiting for his food. And then you walk in and then you see him sitting at a table and you're like, wow, he moved pretty fast. Like I just saw him in the lobby. You have 2 sightings there, and then sometimes the bathroom door swings open. Like his ghost is going to the bathroom. That's it. That's all. You're right. I wouldn't have told the ghost story if it didn't involve Arby's. But that is creepy, right? Let's take this apart. Let's look at this. Imagine if you're a ghost in a fast food restaurant. Is he eating ghost food? Is he pooping ghost poop? Or is that just where the ghost is kind of wandering? This, if I had to classify this as a ghost, this might be more of a recorded ghost where someone he just loved Arby's so much, mentally ill, clearly suffering from severe brain trauma, but he loves Arby's so much. And maybe this was a normal path for him. He would come in and he'd be in the lobby, and then he'd be like taking in the splendor of everything as his blood is leaking out of his ears. He's like, wow, this place is clean and delicious. And then he would walk out of the lobby and go and he'd sit down and he'd eat his food. And then immediately afterwards, he has to use the bathroom. It is Arby's after all. And he gets up and he goes to the bathroom. Maybe he made this loop so many times that when he eventually died, his spirit is still trapped here. Oracle relationship. I'm going to go ahead and toss the keys of the Carpenter copter. Where were we at? Oh, Anderson, Indiana. We're leaving behind Anderson, Indiana. I want people on the ground investigating this if you live in Indiana. You might lose a couple taste buds, but we might find the truth about the haunted Arby's. We're leaving behind Anderson, Indiana. Fly us all the way out to a normal house in a normal neighborhood. This is another short story, and I'm going to be honest with you. This wasn't the episode I had planned. I know everything seems expertly crafted. I was going to do an episode. We're going to save it for next week. Really cool conspiracy theory and true crime story about one of the first responders who was at the Oklahoma City bombing. Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols blew up or did they? Were they behind it? It was really interesting conspiracy theory involving a first responder trying to find the truth. Like, he was one of the first people there, and he looks around all this rubble and he thinks, I don't believe the official story. But I actually postponed that to next week because last night's episode was super heavy with all the suicides and stuff like that. All the reading a full suicide letter. I wanted to have something a little more uplifting, and that's how we get a Madhouse episode like this. Oracle, let's go ahead and land this Carpenter copter outside this house. It's September 2023. We're about to meet a young man named William. He's walking down the stairs of his house to grab a snack. And right when he gets to the last step, he looks into the living room and he sees himself. He sees himself standing there wearing the exact same clothes that William is wearing right now. He sees himself talking to his mom. William said, this is super interesting because obviously something's going on here. Mental illness, spirit, dimensional warping, we don't know. But I think there might be a couple little clues here to kind of give us an idea what's going on. William said, there was something off about the other me. Outside of the fact that it was another me, he goes, there was something about the way he reacted, was the term he used. He goes, he reacted in such a way that seemed off. Now, I don't know if he reacted to the real William coming down the stairs or if he was reacting to what the mother was saying, but he just said the way he reacted, something was off. And that's not the end of the story, but that's the end of that part of the story. And you ask yourself, what? Imagine you came down the stairs and you saw yourself talking to your mom. What would you do? Would you go back upstairs? Would you rub your eyes and then look again and you still see yourself talking to your mom? Would you walk towards the other you and your mom and be like, what's going on? Who's that guy? Why is he wearing my clothes? Why is he wearing my face? Because William doesn't say what he did when he saw himself talking to his mom. And I posed that question to you because I don't know what I would do. I've told this story before. I've told it a couple times on the podcast. Back when I was a young man, early 20s, when I had this apartment up off of Sunrise Boulevard over by Antelope, Sunrise and Antelope, that area. One day I came home and I opened the door and I was sitting on the couch. And I walked in and Couch Jason stood up and took a step towards me, and I don't remember anything else. But in that moment, I didn't think, I should leave. or I should fight him, or I should yell. It just happened. It was the only time that ever happened to me. What does it mean? I don't know. And I think that's an interesting question, because what would you do? Like, seriously, if you saw yourself talking to your mom, or anybody, maybe your mom's not around, but you know what I mean? Like, you see yourself talking to somebody, and they're reacting to that person like it's you. Would you turn around and go back upstairs? Would you intervene? Like, something goes wrong with each iteration, each decision. William posted this because he goes, things have gotten worse. He goes, in the past couple days, I began hearing knocking in my house. It's just typical poltergeist phenomenon. Very basic power level with a ghost. But it's not just that. He said, I've been seeing other people in my house. Other people in my house. He's not specifying that they're doppelgangers or people he knows. They're not specifying if they're strangers. I'm seeing other people walking around my house. I'm seeing other people in my room. He starts to say he begins seeing other people in his house. But these aren't doppelgangers. These aren't mimics of him or anyone else. He clarifies that these are people who don't exist. He said, I'm seeing people that don't exist in my house. I'm seeing people who don't exist in my room. And he goes, and it's not just at home. He goes, one day I was out of the house, and someone asked me what time it was. So I reach into my pocket, pull out my phone, look at the time, and when I look back up, he's gone. Not walked away, just completely vanished. He ends his post by saying, can someone help me and tell me what this could be? Am I going insane? Unquote. As of the time of recording this episode, he's not posted anymore. He posted this under the name Lower Percentage 6841. He has had no more posts since he posted this back in September 2023. This is one of those things that we could look at where ghost, mimic, dimensional hopping. I think I would lean more towards the dimensional thing. Because seeing a version of yourself standing at the end of a dark hallway or hearing your mom's voice from the basement when you know she's out shopping, that tends to be more spirit related. Something's trying to guide you in a particular direction. It's probably negative for the most part. Well, here's the thing. What did I say? I said ghost, Mandela Effect, dimension, I don't remember. There's also the big factor that he might be insane. He might be having a serious psychotic break. Right? You gotta throw that one in there as well. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. I think it's probably not spiritual. It's probably is something related to dimension jumping, or he's having a psychotic break. And the dimension jumping I find super fascinating. And to wrap it back around to that law of attraction thing, I personally don't know if when I'm affecting reality through the law of attraction, I don't think I'm leaving a current reality for a new one. But then what is going on? Like, I think I'm taking my current reality and reshaping it. But I'm still in this timeline. I don't think I moved to another timeline. But I wonder if you can reshape reality so much that the universe goes, well, I can't do that for you, but moves you over to one that you can do. I don't know. I mean, this stuff is so weird. I wonder how closely related the law of attraction and dimension jumping, Mandela Effect are related, because I think sometimes you may push reality to a point where the universe will give you what you believe, but it may put you in another reality. And I would have no way to know I would have no way to know if I actually successfully used the law of attraction to get what I wanted, or if I dimension hopped to a reality where I already have those things. And what's interesting, so we have that type of thing. Now, he hasn't mentioned anything about law of attraction. He hasn't mentioned anything about wanting to dimension jump, but it could also be happening unwillingly. I think we have enough stories in the lore about people unwittingly being put into other realities, other universes. One thing that I'm starting to see come up, because I'm spend a lot of time on the retconned and the Mandela Effect communities online, is there's starting to be this debate over whether or not the Mandela Effect is evil. Super interesting idea, because originally the Mandela Effect was kind of positioned in this thing that when CERN was fired up, when the super collider was fired up, it caused a split in the timelines. You had the Berenstain Bears timeline and the Berenstain Bears timeline. You had the Mandela Effect. You had the Nelson Mandela died in the 80s or the 90s, and then you had Nelson Mandela died much later. These were the two prime timelines. But nowadays, the retcon of the Mandela Effect community, they're so fixated on little changes. And they're talking about the universe changing back and forth multiple times, even when the CERN collider's not being used. Even all of this stuff, they're starting to think, is the Mandela Effect evil? I think if you were a conspiracy theorist and you thought that CERN, they have that big statue of Shiva, the Hindu goddess of destruction and rebirth, that's just sitting outside their headquarters. You had that video footage of that mock human sacrifice right next to the Shiva statue that CERN has never debunked. They've actually said that video was shot. That was a real video. However, it was a bunch of students that made it. They made it to rile up the conspiracy theory community, and we punished the students. We sacrificed them in front of the statue. No, I think the students got in trouble for it, or the interns, or whatever it was. So they do admit that that video is real. It actually was filmed. They said that it was just a stunt. It was a practical joke. It's kind of an odd practical joke. I could see someone doing this stuff at Disneyland, right? Because it's counter to what Disneyland's mission is. You could go there and film like a really quick human sacrifice thing late at night, and then you get chased out by security, and then you're like, we caught this on video, and you would get it as a prank. It's an odd prank, because you're pranking such a small group of people. Most people don't even know what CERN is. And then most people who do know what CERN is don't connect it to the end of the world, or they just know it's a laboratory that's running these experiments. It's a very small group of people who believe that CERN is actually opening portals to hell. But they are pranking them. It seems like a lot of effort to prank a very, 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 very small group of people. But originally, it was this idea that CERN had messed something up, and CERN, because they are a faceless organization, is very easy to classify as evil. Plus, they also do have a statue of Shiva outside of their facility. It was a gift. That's what they say. It was a gift. But now with the changes happening so rapidly, like you go to these retconned places online, I'll put a couple in the show notes, they will be saying Fruit Loops is switching back and forth between Fruit and Froot. It's switching back and forth. It's happening all the time, and people are talking about personalized Mandela effects. And the idea is the Mandela effect evil? Is the person or force who is pushing this actually have ill intent? It's a very, very interesting conspiracy theory, because when it was just CERN, I think a lot of people figured it was an accident. That they didn't mean to do it, but this is what happens when you meddle with science. You destroy the timeline. That always seemed to be the early narrative. What we're seeing a lot now in the retconning Mandela Effect community is people talking about personalized Mandela effects. Where they'll say, I talked to a friend of mine, and I remember us watching a movie together. 3 weeks ago, we watched Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo. It was hilarious. But now, 3 weeks later, I mentioned that. I was quoting the movie, and he looked at me like I was an insane sexual predator. And I go, what? No. That's a line from Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo. My friend's like, oh, I've never seen that. You quote movies I've never seen. And you're like, no, you saw that. You saw that. And people will post things like that. People will talk about these personalized Mandela effects. It's driving them crazy. We've covered a couple on the show. I know I keep saying I'll find those episodes. It's going to be an episode with a lot of show notes. And it would drive you crazy. It 100% would drive you crazy if reality was shifting like that. And it would be even more isolating if you realized it was only happening to you. Because no one else, whether or not Fruit Loops is spelled one way or the other, or the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia is there or not, you can debate that with online. When your buddy's saying, dude, I never saw that movie, please quit quoting it. It's your word against theirs, but you know you saw it with them. You know it. Personalized Mandela effects, you would have to think I'm being targeted. And that's really where we're back to this story. Because this would seem like he's phasing out of reality. He sees himself talking to his mom. The story kind of ends there. And then he's seeing these people that quote-unquote don't exist in his house. It's almost like he is slowly transitioning to a reality where he's not originally from. Which, if you think about it from a metaphysical standpoint, would be absolutely horrifying. You would feel like you were losing your mind. You would walk home one day and put your key in, your key doesn't work in your lock. And when you're puzzled and you're looking in the windows, you see a family in your home. Like, what would that do to your head? I figured it'd be squatters, right? Probably call the cops. But after a matter of a couple hours, you would realize this isn't your house. That would be shocking enough, but imagine if it was happening slowly over time. Imagine you came home and your key works, you go in, it's your home, but you notice there's a sippy cup in the kitchen. You're like, what? A sippy cup? I don't have kids. I don't have a sippy cup. Be puzzling. A couple weeks later, you come home and there's an oil stain on the driveway. Wow, what is going on here? And you start to notice little things. And then sometimes you'd wake up in the middle of the night and there would be a kid walking in your room being like, Daddy, I'm thirsty. You would think it was a ghost. And then finally, one day, this has been going on for a period of time, finally one day you do come home and there's a car in your driveway and you're like, what is going on? You look in the window and you see a little kid, the same kid that you saw that one night, drinking out of a sippy cup. You see a family sitting on the couch watching television. That would be even more mind-bending. It's this slow progression. By the time you even got there, I think you would figure your house is extremely haunted or you were going insane. And nobody could help you. Even if you brought out a paranormal researcher, they'd be like, well, from what you describe, it does sound like there's a ghost. But how would you start? This is a cosmic force. This Mandela thing is just happening. There's been no research on how to stop it. Again, when we originally thought it was the CERN collider that started the initial splits, you figured just stop using the collider, but now it's just happening all the time. Now, most of the time, right, a lot of these things, I believe, are just people misremembering things. Luke, I am your father versus no, I am your father. I think that's just a misremembering and cultural contamination from parodies, SNL skits, stuff like that. They're simplifying the line for it to make sense. But I do think that some of this stuff is legit. And that could happen. But here's really the question, and we'll wrap it up like this. What's more terrifying? First option is quickly phasing into another reality. You come home, you're in a world that you don't know. There's a lot of really small variations, but you can add up to the fact that you're not where you normally were. And what would make that even more startling is I use the example of another family. Imagine if you came home and you looked in the window and you're in that house with a family. Your family, but not your family. You didn't have a family in this timeline, but now you've shifted to another reality where you are there. Same social security number, same fingerprints. It's you. in there with a family. I mean, if you're cool, right? If you're a cool dude, maybe you could go in and talk to yourself at some point and try to hash this out. But I wonder what the universe does when there's two people in the same reality who are the same person. Does one cease to exist? Do they both exist? Could you kind of hash it out and try to figure out what's going on? And the thing is what I think happens is most of the people who are having these Mandela effects, we are lovers of the paranormal. Even if you don't believe in it, if you just listen to this podcast because you find it entertaining, you still have a love for the paranormal. We are, in a way, ready for a lot of paranormal activity. We can classify it. We can look at, that's another reason why I really like doing this show. We can classify it. We can study it. So if a ghost showed up at your house tonight, if you go to get out of bed and a cold hand reaches out from underneath and grabs your ankle after your heart attack, after you get out of the emergency room, you could start to go, this is a ghost, possibly the boogeyman. I'm curious the breakdown of how many people believe that they are being affected by the Mandela effect, or even just believe in the Mandela effect itself, and don't have a understanding of high strangeness or the paranormal. Because it's so weird. And you have to imagine people who are not into the paranormal, they don't watch Unsolved Mysteries, and not a huge fan of the X-Files. When these things start happening to them, they have no sense of context. They don't know that this is happening to thousands of people around the world. Hundreds of thousands, really, if you count the big examples. You would just think that you were going insane. You wouldn't know to look at the retconned community. You'd have no idea what Mandela effect meant. You would just start to realize that you believed things that weren't real. Which is funny because, again, that's what the law of attraction does. That's why I think those two might be connected in a way. But what's scarier? That you quickly shift into another reality? That you slowly shift into another reality? Or that you're in this reality, but you're losing your mind? Because that's something that I've had to question over the years, right? When you walk into your house and you see yourself sitting on the couch and he gets up and I take a step forward and then I just wake up the next morning. I obviously, it happened decades ago, but that's a sign of a brain damage. That's a sign of mental illness. You have to be open. You have to be willing to say this stuff. It's insane. It's nuts. I'm sure that is a diagnosable thing. Now, I only saw it once. It was decades ago. I don't even know if I categorize it as a paranormal experience. That apartment did have a lot of negative energy in it. That apartment was, by the time I left, was soaked in, it wasn't necessarily even from me. It was just the highly trafficked apartment that a lot of people would come over and hang out, spend the night, stuff like that. And some people better than others. It was very soaked in negativity to the point that it was full on haunted. That would be the best term for it. I don't know if a spirit resided there or what, but it could be that this young man is simply going insane. And the reason why I say that, because that story where he's walking down the stairs and he sees himself and it just kind of ends, that is kind of how a psychotic break can be as well. They don't wrap it up. It's not like a Law and Order episode where there's like a fitting conclusion and then the theme music. No, they'll just end. The psychotic episode ends. There's no rationale behind it. He might have not walked down the stairs at all. He could have been sitting in his room and had this psychotic break that he was walking down the stairs, that he saw himself. It's one of those stories. I mean, I think in this, you guys know me. The idea of losing my mind is absolutely terrifying to me. Of truly being insane. If I had to choose between the three, quickly transporting into another dimension, slowly doing it. I mean, they're all pretty grim, unless the dimension is favorable to you. But again, it's not I would always feel bad for hopping dimensions because I think, what about all the people I left behind? That's the thing about quantum immortality as well. If I died in this reality, but I live on in the next reality, sure, I'm fine. I'm still alive. But everyone in this reality who loves me will mourn me and will miss me. I won't even know that I died in this reality. I just go on living my life. maybe noticing a few small changes here and there. That's another thing. Quantum immortality tied in with Mandela Effect, dimension jumping tied in with law of attraction. There's such a connection to all of this stuff. But no matter what reality you end up in, only a truly insane person would ever eat at Arby's. You knew that was coming back. You knew it was coming back. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio.